All right. Well, for today's episode, I have two very special guests here that I am so excited to talk to. I have Dana and Shayna from DayLuna here. Welcome. Hi, ladies. How are you two doing?
Hello. We're so excited. We're so excited to be here with you, one of our favorite manifestors of all time. It's such an honor and such a joy to just get to share this conversation. So thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you. We just love your energy, and we've obviously spent a lot of time with you internationally. And so we're just grateful that now we get to have this conversation virtually and on the podcast space. So, yeah, thanks for initiating us and inviting us onto your show.
Yes, I'm so excited. So today, you just said we've traveled internationally together. So wanted to kind of talk through some of the magic that can happen coming out of retreats, community. But I think before we get too far, I know some of my listeners are familiar with you too, but some are maybe not. So if you wouldn't mind, could you maybe give me just a little rundown of, again, who you are, what you do, for the listeners?
Yeah, totally. So Shayna and I are the founders of DayLuna. We teach all things about human design. We have a human design podcast. We've written a book on human design. And in our business, DayLuna, we create a lot of different offerings to help people understand their unique energy, their unique life purpose and soul purpose with their human design. So we've been in business now for over 5 years, I think. And Shayna and I have known each other for over 17 years. We've been best friends since college. And right out of college, we kind of went out into the regular, normal muggle world and got regular jobs and tried to just, check all of the boxes of what we thought we were supposed to do with our lives. And both of us, when we turned around 27, we had this like quarter life crisis where we were exhausted. We were so unhappy and we felt like totally gypped. Like I followed all the rules. I did all the things right. Why do I feel like I have no idea who I am? Why do I feel like a shell of myself? Why do I feel like what I'm doing right now with my life is not it? And that kind of caused both of us to go on a really big soul inquiry. Okay, if this is not it, what is? And if I don't know who I am, then let me really try to discover who that person actually is. And as best friends, we went down that path together and we started studying breathwork and yoga and going on retreats ourselves. And in that process, we stumbled across human design. And human design was the thing that just completely transformed our lives. It was like the second we found this system, this huge light bulb feeling went off inside of us. It's like this soul recognition or remembering this is what we are here to be. This is what we're here to share. This is what we're here to teach with other people. And it totally changed our lives to start living with alignment to our unique human design. So for all of those who are listening, they're like, okay, what is human design? You mentioned this a lot of times already, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Human design is the science of differentiation. It is a system that is a synthesis of ancient spiritual sciences such as Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the chakra system, the tree of life. It's taking these very ancient systems that have been around from thousands of years and it's adding them together. Plus, it's integrating some modern science, quantum physics, biogenetics. It's really showing you this full picture with all of these different facets about who you are as a unique energetic being. So it's really like this blueprint of your uniqueness, what makes you different than other people, how you're meant to use your specific energy and your energetic body, what your life purpose is. And so it's really cool because it gives you this blueprint, but it also gives you the manual of how to like drive your energetic vehicle. And that's what we fell in love with. We were really fascinated in astrology, understanding people's differences from this more psychological lens, but it's like, how do I change my life with this information? Okay, I know I'm like this and I know I'm like that, but like, how do I pay my bills? What am I supposed to do for work? Those more practical things. We were really seeking those answers. Like, how do I discover that for myself? And the coolest thing about human design is it gives you your strategy and authority, these two ways of experimenting with your uniqueness. And every single thing that is unique about you can be navigated on the material plane through these two simple steps of following your strategy and authority. So it's really cool. You can experiment with human design. You can practice it on a daily basis. And in doing that, you start to shift into personal alignment with everything that you truly are. So for Shayna and I, experimenting with that, we're both the same human design type. We're both projectors, and we're actually both 2-4 projectors. So out of the 12 personality profiles, we have the same one. And when we discovered that, it was like everything made sense. Because as friends, we've always seen the world in the same way. We've always come up against the same challenges with being exhausted and not being able to work regular 9 to 5s like the rest of our friends seem to be able to do. And so experimenting together, living in that way, takes a lot of bravery and courage, not going to lie, to use your authority, which is like your intuitive decision-making way of operating. But through experimenting that together, literally everything in our lives started changing, and it led us down this path to eventually create DayLuna and be able to help other people find their soul purpose and navigate life correctly for who they are as a unique individual.
Yeah. I'm like, well said, Dana. That's
Like
everything that
all
we've
that
ever experienced. All
wrapped
the
into one
things.
podcast.
Yeah. And we just can't stop talking about it, right? Like it's one of those things that hit us at like a ton of bricks, and we wanted to shout it from the rooftops to as many people as possible. Because when you learn about your human design, it's this feeling of validation, but also, how has nobody ever told me this information before? Like, this seems like the most important information that I could possibly learn about myself, or even have languaging to about myself. So that's really what the magic of human design is. It gives languaging to all of these things that you thought maybe were normal, or you didn't even know were special about you. It helps you understand what your roadblocks are and the things that might be keeping you stuck or keep you living in fear. And it really gives you the keys to actually take action and change your life, like by changing your energetic frequency, by aligning with your natural energetics, so that way you're not swimming upstream anymore and trying to be like everyone else, or questioning if you're doing things right, or questioning every decision that you make. You really find this confidence to be yourself because you have languaging of what that actually is and what that looks like, and then you can experiment with it and see, oh wow, that really did work for me, and I do feel more like myself, and that was easier, and that did feel in alignment, and I feel really seen now. So we like to say human design is an experiment because it takes the proof of practicing it to then get your mind on board to really realize, like, wow, this is something that I can't unknow now, and it changes your life.
I love what you just said about you can't unknow it because that was exactly how I felt once I found human design. So I think maybe human design actually found me. I feel like it comes in at the right time for a lot of people. And this for me was back in, I think, 2021. And I found out I was a manifester and that I was a 5-1 profile, and just something immediately just resonated. I was like, yes, like this feels right. And then as I pulled up my chart, realizing that I have a lot of like line 1 energy, and I was like, I need to know more. I need to know everything. And so I ended up finding you two on Instagram, and you just had so much just free information out there, and just it immediately clicked with me the way that you share the human design system. So I just started like gobbling up everything that I could on the internet, and that was free resources. But yeah, I couldn't unsee it. It was just like, this is me. And I almost actually saw my body graph chart as more of like my potential. And I think as you're talking about like the experiment side of human design, it's all figuring out what works for you, right? I also really loved the kind of spectrum approach that you can have with human design of like, well, this center, there's a high expression and a low expression. And for me, I realized for years I had been living in the low expression of a lot of my gifts. And it was like, you know what? I have a choice. And this is me. This is who I'm designed to be. Do I want to continue operating in this kind of low vibe, really challenging way? Or can I start to kind of shift some things, experiment with what feels better, and kind of start to see what that high vibration feels like? So I love
Yeah.
the experimenting side of the system. Like it's just all what works for you. Try it, try and
Mhm.
error, right?
I love what you just said. It's so true. Like I feel like you're such a great communicator. You have so much wisdom in everything you share, but like what you just said about wanting to transform yourself into the highest expression, I think is one of the most powerful things about human design, because when we enter this self-improvement space, I feel like we can try to change ourselves because we don't like who we are, and that is never going to have sustainable results. It's just not. A
Mhm.
lot of people try to go on like a body transformation journey with working out, for example, or they try to go on a journey with their relationship from not liking it and trying to change who they are. And that doesn't work. We cannot change who we are, but we can transform our energy from the lowest expression to the highest expression. Like you are who you are, period. You're never going to change your characteristics or your qualities. However, there is so much evolution and transformation that can happen from the lowest expression to the highest expression. I feel like that's really freeing. Like you don't need to change who you are. There's nothing wrong with you. You are perfectly designed. You have everything that you could ever need inside of you, but there's a lot of work to do in transforming. And that energy of like transforming instead of changing, I feel like brings us back to love. It brings us back to accepting ourselves and loving ourselves and feel instead of feeling like we need to change because we don't like who we are. And I feel like that's medicine that the world is desperate for and is awakening to. And human design is just one tool that is helping people remember that.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be so much work. I think that you can really get stuck, especially in this spiritual space, self help, wellness, mind body connection space, in really thinking of yourself as this imperfect being that has so much work to do, and you have to do all of your shadow work and you have to tear yourself apart, and you're never going to be ready to lead or teach or share or guide with other people because you just have so much work to do and so much healing to uncover. And while going on a healing journey can take time and it can be really powerful, the different things that you uncover, the amazing thing about human design is literally it's just awareness. Like somebody telling you, you have an undefined ego center, and the lowest expression means that you're trying to prove yourself all the time and even prove yourself to yourself. But you have a defined ego, or the highest expression, I should say, is really being confident in who you are and who other people are and sensing what is right for you and what isn't, and not needing this desire to push yourself all the time. And just having that awareness, literally that sentence spoken to you, and you see in your chart, okay, I have this undefined, you just start to move throughout your day noticing, wow, 10 of the things that I did today, I was only doing because I was trying to prove something to myself or to others. And it's not this whole thing that you have to go, excavate for years and years. It's like literally the awareness sets you free, because like I said before, and like you were saying, once you know, you can't unknow it. So it becomes this unlocking that happens as you learn about your human design that sets you free without you needing to like go to 5 million gurus and, excavate all these things. Now, I'm not hating on, healing work, because I think that there's a lot of power in healing our nervous systems and, doing breath work and things that really can unwind some stuck places that are stuck in our bodies and in our limiting beliefs. But even somebody telling you, these are patterns that can show up in your lowest expressions, that awareness alone, once again, you start observing it. And then it becomes really easy to not judge yourself or compare yourself or get stuck in your stories, because you have this languaging that's like, it's objective. It's like, this is the low expression, this is the high expression. And you don't have all these stories. Well, but my mom was like this and my dad was like that. And then my friends are like this. And there's all this like comparison with outside forces. It takes all that away. It's just internal. And it's just you noticing yourself and choosing to set down the story and like lean into the higher expression. So I love it because it is, I don't want to say less work than the others, because it does take a little bit of work to learn about yourself through the system, right? Like it takes that investigating or getting a human design reading or learning about your chart to have that awareness. But then once you do, you're so much freer than you could be if you'd spent 10 years in therapy or, did 75 ayahuasca ceremonies, which I have seen people do, and they still come back and they're the exact same person just seeking that next high of like, I'm still not healed. I need to go find it. I need to go seek it. So it really is amazing. We're obsessed, and we'll probably never stop talking about it because the more awareness, the better.
Please don't. Please keep talking about it. I feel like more people need to know about it. The world is starting to become more ready to hear it. So, yes, I'm all for it. It's been so transformative for me as well. Um, so I think so I mentioned that I found you in 2021, or Human Design found me. And I did not immediately book a reading or anything with you, but in, I think, was it 2022, I saw that you had posted you were going to host an in-person human design reader training in Costa Rica. And something inside of me was like, yeah, I want to do that. And looking back now on the Costa Rica experience and kind of just making the decision that I wanted to go to that retreat with you, I don't know if I fully followed my strategy and authority. I think it was more of an ego want, of like my defined ego just wanted it. And maybe it actually was a bit of strategy and authority of like, I just want this experience. But I never questioned it. I didn't have a reading from either of you. I don't even know if I had like reached out and DM'd you or really even interacted with you before this, but it was like, yeah, I think this feels good. I want to learn more for myself about myself. And this was post COVID, right? So I was really craving some like in person interaction. And I think I just followed that and signed up for your in person human design reader training, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I would love to hear a little bit more of like, how did hosting retreats kind of become something that you decided you wanted to do? How did you land on reader training as kind of that first retreat? Because you've hosted a few now, but let's start with maybe Costa Rica and how you decided to do that retreat first.
Yeah. So Costa Rica was a dream of ours, was to hold a human design reader training in person. And it really sparked from a place of, you know, us learning human design ourselves and all of the different roadblocks that we came across in our journey of trying to learn the system, and all of the different, schools that have all of these walls up that you have to like spend years and years and thousands of dollars to overcome. And also, trainings that give you just enough, but not quite everything, and that you need to give a really good reading. And so we really found ourselves having to learn from dozens of different resources, and really seeing the through line of the essence of what human design is teaching throughout all of those trainings and teachings that we learned from. And really, one of our gifts is synthesizing things together and really bringing it into, okay, how is this actually going to impact you? How is this actually going to change your life? And what do you really need to know here? Like, what is the most important thing here to help you uh, alchemize or transform from the lowest expression to the highest expression? How can you work with this energy internally and also give it out to the world externally and help other people with these gifts? So we were just so passionate about it, and it became really clear through doing so many readings ourselves, the information that people really needed to hear. And so it kind of just happened where we started creating curriculum without even trying to, because we had our human design boxes that we have written every possible scenario that you could have for a chart, so that way we can pull together your information and then give you a booklet. So we had all this information written, and we were in the process of also writing a book. So we were just like, you know what, let's meet in person. We want to gather together. We want to really dive into every single facet. And it was 10 days, and it was in the midst of COVID. And
Mhm.
looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy, because there was so much stress around it, where we really were using our strategies and authorities. And there was, our authority was very clear. We're having it here. this is the timing and this is what we're doing. And all the information and what we were teaching came together so effortlessly. Everyone signed up. Like, I think it sold out within a few hours. And we were like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. And then 2 months later, Costa Rica released a thing that was like, you have to be vaccinated to come. And we're like, shit, okay, let's email everybody and let them know. And then like a few people dropped out and we're like, okay. So then we opened it back up and then other people joined. And then they lifted that. And then it was like, just kidding, you don't have to be vaccinated. So then all those people that wanted to come, then some of them signed back up. And it was just really an unknown time. We didn't know going into it, is everybody going to have to wear masks? Because the online space, like when you Google search something like, do you have to be vaccinated to go to this country? Or like, do you have to wear a mask? It's like everything online is so official. And it's like, yes, you have to wear a mask everywhere you go. And you're like, shit, okay, well, as somebody facilitating, I just have to tell them what the regulations are. And then of course we get there and it's like, you don't have to wear a mask. Like, you're fine. We're in circle. We're in, it was just our group at this resort for the most part. And it was, nobody got sick. Like, that was a big concern. Like, what if somebody has COVID and they come and then everybody gets sick, and halfway through, 10 days is a long time, right? Like, we now met and 5 days later, what if people start getting sick? And nobody did. And it was amazing. And it really, truly, everything in Costa Rica just worked out so well. So what else do you want to add to that, Dana? I mean, I feel like I could talk about Costa Rica forever.
I enjoyed hearing you talk about it because it's been a few years now. So I have other things in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, that is what happened. But in general with our retreats, it's really interesting. We have a really interesting mix of preparing like psychopaths and being so detailed. It's like ridiculous. And then when we get there, we can really let go and be super present. And you can almost feel this like ineffable higher thing that comes out in the experience, in the way that we're sharing. Like, we truly feel ourselves channel, and the connections we have with the people who come. It's like true. It's hard to explain. I really believe that there's like this higher love, this higher order that comes through. So we're a really interesting mixture, right? Of that, like super detailed, super prepared. Like, we think of everything. We like pay for everything. We make sure that we have testing. We make sure that blah, blah, blah. But then also we're like, life will help us. And I think that that's part of our magic, is that we kind of do both. So yeah, I think with Costa Rica, the magic that happened when we were actually there, we just didn't know because we had never done a live in-person retreat before, but it changed our lives for both of us, like literally. I know that's a euphemism to say that, or a platitude to say that, but I mean it. Like, it changed our lives to experience people coming together in that human design container where you're seeing one another through that lens of accepting each other and knowing each other's differences. Because a lot of times when you go to a retreat, there's all this pressure to get along with each other and to do what other people are doing. And will they like me? And will they get me? And will I make friends or not? And for us, with our retreats, with the human design being the undertone, it just blows our minds how everything feels so harmonious and everyone gets to go so much deeper than you would if you didn't have this language of human design to meet each other with.
Yeah, it really does create that space where you feel seen, and you're also seeing other people because you're learning about human design, but you also know everybody coming already knows about human design to an extent. And so it's this permission, like this I want to say once in a lifetime container, but it's been several times now in a lifetime. And will be many more, but it's this opportunity to be in a space where every single person, you can say to someone, oh, I'm a 2/4, or oh, I'm a manifester, or I'm a reflector. Like, you can really just say one word and people just understand your whole frequency with just a word. And it creates this ease and this harmony and this acceptance that then helps you to accept yourself even more, and you're accepting others who are different than you even more. So it really creates this beautiful space. But I do want to say, Costa Rica, we were really focused on training, like really focused on the content. We had a lot of information to share. So it was a lot of lectures, a lot of class, a lot of like standing and talking and teaching. And, we wove in definitely time for practicing at different things and having connection, but very different from our other retreats that we've had. And there was 35 people in Costa Rica. And it's so funny because it had this uh celebration energy, this lightness to it. Like we wanted to dance all night long with several nights, and kind of like party vibes, if you will, because we were just all so freaking stoked on this information and excited to go out and share it. Whereas, you know, the other two retreats were so different. So it's just so crazy how you know, we've learned a lot through holding these spaces. But yeah, Costa Rica was definitely our baby, and the scariest thing that I had ever done leading up to, you know, that point, because I just didn't know what to expect. You know, I was dreaming about it every single night for the 2 months leading up to it. And, you know, just like, okay, did I think of everything? And who's going to be there? And is it going to be crazy? Am I good enough to be able to hold space for 35 people and teach them for 10 days? Like 10 days is a long time to hold space for people. And then it was like the easiest thing I'd ever done. And when I came back, I'm like, I could do that forever. Like there was definitely 2 days after where I was like, we're never doing that again. I'm so exhausted. I'm a projector. But then after those 2 days passed, my gears were already spinning. Like, how can we
What's
gather in
next?
person again? What's next? Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, I love the words that you shared of harmonious and magical, because I also feel like that was what I left Costa Rica feeling, was like this was truly probably a once in a lifetime experience of just a time where I got to observe so many women just being themselves. Everyone was
Mm.
just so individual, and it worked. There was like no concern, no comparison, like everything just had kind of a flow and a level of ease to it. And that was just brand new for me to see, of so many individual people just being their authentic selves. And like you also were saying, this common language that we were all speaking was just something new as well, of like, oh yeah, I'm a manifester. Oh, you are too. Oh my gosh, I'm a 5/1. So are you. Like it was just this new way of kind of being in the world. And I think, were we one of the only groups at the
Mhm.
resort there? Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was almost like we felt like we were in our own little bubble, or I felt
Mhm.
like our group was
Yeah.
kind of in their own little bubble. So it was just kind of this really, for me, really ease filled kind of just magical experience. And I say that, but then the other piece, that reflecting back a couple of years now, I feel like my experience in Costa Rica, I was actually very guarded myself. I'm not I'm not going to say that I was fake or inauthentic. I just was still in a place that I was uncovering, like, who is Allison truly? Kind of uncovering the layers of conditioning, still relatively new to my human design experiment. I think I was less than a year. And so I was just also kind of guarded and just didn't share as openly as maybe I did in future retreats. But looking back, I think that's the experience that I needed to have. I even remember I had signed up for a shared room, and then immediately was like, oh my gosh, I'm a manifester. I need my alone time. And kind of all the mental tricks started playing in my head of like, I need my own sanctuary. I can't sleep with someone who has a sacral, and all of this kind of just bullshit that didn't matter. But I remember emailing you two and I was like, I need my own room. Like, I need that. And I was so worried about it. And again, like I had the experience that I needed to have in Costa Rica, but I just look back and I'm like, oh, Allison, like you were so guarded, and that was like the perfect place that you could have started to let your guard down. But yeah, it just was such like an accepting and just beautiful kind of group that I don't think I'll ever get to experience that same kind of vibe again. Just its own individual experience.
Totally. And I think it's so fun for us to know you and to have had you at all three of the retreats that we've done, because you know as much as we do, and only the other person is Julia. All of us know
Mm.
that each gathering that we've had has had its own energy. its own
Very
frequency.
much.
It had its own vibe, and you can't really compare the three. Like they're all so different. And that is not something that we like mentally contrived. It's just how life is. When we grow, when we evolve, like you can't step in the same river twice because the river's always changing, always flowing, aka Pocahontas. Also, I think like Sophocles or something. You know, that's actually from
Yes.
Sophocles. Anyways, it's true. Like you can't step in the same river twice. Like we are all different people. And so when you look back at that first one, you see like I got what I needed at that time for who I was in that moment, for who I was evolving towards. And then showing up a year later, I'm no longer the same person. I'm on a new octave because
Mhm.
I've lived and I've grown and I've transformed. And each of our retreats, I truly believe, are extremely transformational. And what that means is that you are literally not the same person when you leave as when you came in. And so I think it's really interesting to look back at how we've grown as individuals through each container, what that container gave us that maybe we didn't want, maybe it wasn't what we expected, but it's like, that's exactly what I needed actually to help me grow. And the same thing has happened for me and Shayna as well. I mean, like we've learned so much from each individual experience and also the people who come, right? Because the collective group carries your own frequency that like it's
Mm.
destined for you all to be together, and there's something that we learn from each group.
Yeah. So I think for me, the key takeaway that I walked away from Costa Rica with was just all about learning, like learning
Yeah,
about myself, learning about the
totally.
human design system. I had the Reiki practitioner that I go to, she was like, I have this sense that Costa Rica and human design are going to kind of open the doors for you. She said that
Mm,
before I left. And so initially I was like, oh my gosh, this means I'm going to be a human design reader. I'm going to have a business with human design. And it's been interesting to see how over the last couple of years, I think that's unfolded differently. And I see how human design has opened the doors for me in different ways. But yeah, learning was just kind of the big takeaway for me from that first retreat experience.
Yeah, totally. And the location that we have each retreat at, there's so much wisdom in each like of the land there. And I definitely feel the frequency, in Costa Rica as being this kind of like um open, like almost like clouds parting, clarity, kind of supportive, clear rain kind of vibe. And every time I've been to Costa Rica, I feel that sense of amplifying whatever intentions you have there with this non pushing, but just kind of like opening, parting the seas kind of vibe. And then, in Bali, very spiritual. The land there is so spiritual and so somatic and in your body. And it has this very um this energy that is deep and
deep. I was gonna say deep.
ancestral
Yes.
and almost like a shaman kind of energy. Even if you're not there for a spiritual thing, Bali is going to bring that frequency to you. And then Mexico, really the land has this ruggedness, this like we're going to put you through the fire and you're going to be out of your comfort zone and you're going to be feeling a little vulnerable. And the frequency of the land there is a little bit more pointed in the way it supports you. It's like, here's the medicine that you need and we're here. We're supporting you. It's beautiful and you are growing, but you're going to grow when you're here. And so the frequency felt in each place. It's like that was also a part of it that was unexpected and something so outside of your control. And it's so interesting, the land and these frequencies that I really felt there. I'm not talking about like the people and the culture that you experience in those places, because obviously that's a conversation that we could have forever. And there's so many nuances and history and cultures and things like that that go into it. But just the energy that you feel are all around you when you're in these places, and especially holding retreat or holding space with so many other people coming together. I think we all felt those similar frequencies by the location that we were in.
Mm. Yeah, you're mentioning Bali, which was the second retreat that you did. Um, had either of you been to Bali before you planned this retreat?
Yeah, I had been to
Yeah.
Bali once with my husband, but
I
Dana hadn't.
hadn't. This is my first
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. So I had not, and it was not on my bucket list. It wasn't on a place that like I have to go. But once I went, that feeling of like spirituality was just so prevalent that I felt, especially in Ubud. Um,
Mhm.
it just felt like such a safe, like slow pace. Like I need to be here more. I just really
Mhm.
loved just kind of the pace of life. I remember I had an Uber driver. I forget what they called the service in Bali, but I had a driver and I was talking to him because I was noticing there were no traffic lights. It was like, but traffic flowed. And I go, how does this work? And he's like, it goes off of intuition and patience. And I was like, that shit would not
Wow.
work in the US. Like, could you imagine like LA or New York traffic? Just like, oh, it's time for me to go. Like, that shit would not work.
Wow. That is so cool. I love that they said
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Bali retreat was not necessarily about learning and training, right?
Mhm.
But more about, remind me, deconditioning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah. So
Exactly.
I think for me, after the Costa Rica experience, I'll just share this. I was like, yes, like you were saying, they're kind of transformative experiences. And so when I saw you were doing another one, I was like, I think I want to do that. But it wasn't an initial yes right away after I kind of wrote out my emotional authority. And I think there were on my behalf like some mind tricks of like, that's a long ass flight. Like
Mhm.
from the US to Bali, like it's a long flight. It could be really expensive, kind of scary to like go by
Mhm.
yourself across
Yep.
the world. So I was like, there's just so many things that I was kind of talking myself out of. But I had felt so transformed and just so different and up leveled from Costa Rica. I just kind of like parked it in the back of my mind and was like, well, if the opportunity is there for me, like it'll be there later. And I remember I was at the gym and I decided to put on one of your podcasts. Hadn't tuned into your podcast for a while. And I picked the one, it was Casey Berglund from
Mhm.
Worthy and Well. And the
Yeah.
three of you were talking about like sexual energy in the new paradigm. And I remember listening to it and I was like, yes, I loved it. And I just felt so good. And it almost transported me back to Costa Rica of like, I just feel good in this energy. And I just want to be around these like good people again and feel that kind of just transformation. And so I looked and there were still tickets available for Bali. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll sleep on it. And the next morning I was like, yep, I still want to go. And so I signed up and it worked out. I remember telling my husband, I was like, I think I'm going to go to Bali. And his face was like, what? Because again, it wasn't anything I had shared or had thought or seen myself doing, but he was like, okay. And so I decided that, okay, if I'm going across the world, I'm going to make a trip of it and I'm going to explore a little bit before and after the retreat by myself. And so for me, that was new also I had done a lot of work trips solo, but it was always like I would land at the destination and just go to the venue or go to where I was meant to be. But Bali was just a time of exploration for myself as well, kind of ahead of the retreat. Um, I got to go to a lot of temples. I went to check out the monkey sanctuary. Like it was just fun to kind of have my own time and really take advantage of a child free time in my life to just live life on my terms by myself. But yeah, I found Bali really um, maybe like healing in that kind
Mhm.
of like slow pace.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that part of that retreat, the medicine of Bali, was for a lot of us traveling so far and going on such a huge leap of faith that, like, I'm going to do this like 48-hour travel time for a lot of us. And I think that that travel is also really truly an initiation. Like you, once again, are transformed from even just saying yes to that part of it. And I really feel like in life, there's so many reasons to not do something. There's like a million reasons. Like it's too expensive, it's too far, I don't have a good reason, I have to take time off work. Like there's literally a million reasons to skip something. And there's just that one reason to do it. And it's that your authority in your body is just like, go for it. And it's such a leap of faith that doesn't make sense to other people. And then when you look back, you're like, wow, thank goodness I listened to that one reason to say yes instead of the million reasons to say no. Because it's honestly like if we only just said no because everything was too hard or too far or too long or whatever, we would never grow. And I feel like for everyone who came to Bali, it was like just even saying yes to the travel. It was like transformation initiated. Like, here we go, buckle up. And it was that. I feel like for us too, for Bali, it was like so healing and deep and like kind of, you know, cracking you open, but in a really gentle way because the land is so gentle and you feel so held. And there is this intuitive, the people there, the energy there is this like intuitive, patient energy. So I feel like I love that your driver gave you those two words. I'm like, he nailed it. That's like my new go-to when I explain the energy there. It's really true. It's really true.
Yeah. And from every single person that you meet in Bali, whether it's your driver or somebody working at your hotel or, somebody at a store, there's this um, inclusivity and wanting to share their traditions and their culture. There's this spiritual love and wanting to really just honor human beings, honor life. So yeah, Bali for me was very special. Like that retreat for me is one that it's like my happy place that I can go to because it was just so channeled and so present, but also really spiritual and vulnerable. So it's interesting, in Bali, we did 2 breathwork sessions. And that's a lot to do in 1 week. And we also, we taught, but it was more just informal, like in circle, not like standing at the front of class with slides and really teaching you things. But you did have a workbook and that we personalized. And, so there was a lot of things that went into it where we wanted to teach you about different things in your design, but mostly holding space for connection and growth and deconditioning and healing. So everybody who came to Bali, really got to experience the somatic side,
Tears.
the
I was gonna
tears,
say crying.
the
We cried
screams.
literally day one in Bali. In Costa Rica,
Mhm.
we laughed so much that maybe you cried.
Mhm.
Maybe you cried one time in Costa Rica. In Bali, it was like the first day, first circle, tears a streaming the
Mhm.
entire circle. And it was like, okay, we are gonna cry our way through this experience. At least for me, that felt really good
Yeah.
because that's my natural state. But there was a lot of tears and a lot of somatics. You're right. Like getting into the body, that deeper layer beyond the mind, kind of down into
Yes.
the
Mhm.
subterranean levels.
Yes, and the depth that we went in Bali felt really easy. Like I feel like every single person was like, "Okay, here we go." And yes, breath work, like there were some crazy sounds. We all at one point all scream. I mean, not us facilitating, but everyone in the room in breath work just really cracked open and let out this insane scream. And Dana and I and our team, Colleen and Lexa, were all standing there like, holy shit, like shaking, like, whoa.
Something was unleashed.
Yes. And it was so powerful and amazing. And so but at the end of that retreat, we're like, okay, we're going to put on music and dance. Everyone's like, no, bitch, we're
No,
tired. We
can't.
need to go to bed. And we're like, yeah, thank God, us too. But we didn't know what to expect because in Costa Rica, it was so like literally the hotel had to kick us out of our space and like shut down the music. But we all wanted to be there and like, one more song. And so we're like, okay, when we planned this one, like, let's have space for that because that's, what we knew. And really, at the end, everyone was like, I just need to go rest and I need to process and digest things. You hear these crows?
Yes.
They are really
Good.
chit-chatting right now. There's a bunch. I have crows in my yard, or ravens actually. Ravens, right?
Oh,
Not the big ones,
I
the smaller ones, which
no,
I think are
crows. That's
those are
crows.
crows. Okay.
Did you know ravens can learn human language as much as a parrot? A
No,
raven,
I
What?
didn't
a
know that.
common raven. Yeah, it's just really hard to teach them because they're really stubborn. But anyways, ravens are bigger and you have crows.
Ravens are bigger. Okay, I always think crows are bigger because it just
No.
sounds like a harsher name. Okay, well, yeah, I have a bunch of crows and they live around my yard and they protect this space, which I love, but sometimes they get feisty.
Feisty.
Yeah. So they're just wanting to chime in on this podcast. But um but what I wanted to say is we couldn't have planned for that. And definitely the capsule that was created there, like that's what it feels like to me. Like everyone who was there, it's like this capsule of like, we know. And then a lot of people who came to Bali and who came to Costa Rica also came to Mexico. And the difference of the people who came to Bali and their experience in Mexico versus the people who only went to Costa Rica and their experience in Mexico is so different. And it's fascinating to me because it's like the people who went to Costa Rica, then going to Mexico, they were like, this was way harder than I thought it was going to be. And this really like called me out and I feel really vulnerable. And this was scarier than I thought and opened my wounds. And I wasn't ready for that. And then the people who went to Bali, they were like, yeah, this was we just did one
I
breath
eat my
work,
core
like,
wounds for breakfast.
exactly, like this is no big deal. This is great, like opening up a new chapter here, then a different one than the one we opened in Bali. So it's really interesting. But I'm curious to know what your experience was in Bali and the comparison between the two, the Costa Rica
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, so true. I remember a couple of the women when they found out kind of halfway through that I had been to Costa Rica, they were like, "Oh, well, how does Costa Rica compare to your current experience in Bali?" And I didn't have the words at first because I was like, initially I was like, "Yes, these experiences feel very different, but I don't have the words to describe it yet because like you're talking about, Costa Rica felt very light and open and just magical. And for me, I think talking about soul contracts and karma and deconditioning and these very individual experiences because we're all deconditioning from different things in our lives. The Bali experience for me felt much more individual. We weren't all learning kind of the same thing. We were all on our individual journeys and it felt much more raw and vulnerable. I've definitely felt safe to kind of express, like you were talking about, all those tears. Um, Felt safe to kind of let that out. But yeah, it felt very raw and kind of intense at times. I'd love to kind of just share some of the breathwork experience that I had with you, because I feel like Dana, we had or sorry, Shayna, we had a little moment in one of the breathwork ceremonies. If you remember, I'll tell you. But I think the first breathwork experience, the one that you were talking about, that the whole room kind of erupted in screaming, I had only done breathwork virtually before Bali. So doing it with so many other women in the room I was excited but also nervous. And so I remember I picked kind of a corner spot in the room, just kind of off to the side by myself. And I really had a hard time kind of getting into my own experience at first. And hopefully I can say this without getting emotional, but I just remembered having a vision of my husband's face. Do you remember like Teletubbies and like the sunshine face, like back in the day? It was
Yes.
almost like that, of just my husband's like floating face. And then all of a sudden it was like my heart just like burst with gratitude. And I just started feeling just like all of this like emotion flood in. And it was almost like his, not blessing isn't the right word, but it was almost like, it's okay. Like you can go there. And so I just remember my husband's face was kind of like what set me off onto this breathwork journey in that first session. And from there, I wouldn't say I had like a truly magical download. I know we kind of debriefed after the experience because we had a smaller group than Mexico, but some of the women were sharing just these like profound experiences of like they met their future self or had these just like things bursting out, and I didn't have that. But what I did experience when I dropped into the breath work was it was almost like I'm laying in the corner and I felt this just surge of energy just kind of flowing through my body, almost as if my head had become like an outlet and I had been like plugged in. And I just felt energy just kind of like flowing through my body from like my head and then going down through my feet. And I believe there was like a pillar kind of by my feet. There were like these big columns in the room, and I remember it just exiting my feet and almost feeling like the energy was flowing back into the tree and like out into the universe. And
Wow.
so that's like the only experience I can say that I felt like I was just a little speck in like this big universe. Um, but that felt profound to me of like, you're just one little pebble on this big rock that we're all floating on. And so that was kind of what was happening for me in the breath work. I felt like the tetany and the tingling. And towards the end, I just remember feeling like I really need to pee. I like suddenly felt like, okay, I need to go to the bathroom. And TMI, but like I wasn't wearing underwear. I had a dress on and I was like, there's nothing. Like I'm going to full bladder pee on this yoga mat if I don't go. But then I was worried because I was in the corner of the room. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to step by everyone else. I don't want to interrupt their experience. And so I just was trying to hold it, but it was taking me out of the breathwork moment. And it was just like, you know what, Allison, this is your body speaking to you. You have not listened to your body for so long. Like, go to the fucking bathroom. Like, it's okay. And so I got up and went to the bathroom, and I think it was the longest pee of my life. I feel like it was another release that I just needed to have in a different way.
Yeah.
But after that
Interesting.
first breathwork experience, I literally felt lighter. I felt like I had just released so many emotions and just felt like a weight was kind of lifted. And that's something that I had been working on, was like actually feeling emotions, processing them. And so it really felt like I had kind of let out a lot of pent up emotions kind of that I had stored over the years. So that first breath work was impactful for me and just left me feeling lighter, and was a really positive experience for me to have in a group that I hadn't had before. So I'm so thankful that you facilitated that for me, because that's a cool memory I'm going to have forever.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And it's so true that like our breathwork experiences, it's just how life is. It's never what you think it's going to be. It's never what your mind or your ego was really hoping it was going to be. It usually surprises you. And then in the end, you're like, but that's actually what I needed for my journey, not comparing myself to other people. And for us, breathwork is just so important. It's like reminds me of doing a workout. Like I never want to work out ever. I don't know if that's true for everyone, but it's true for me. I never want to work out. And every
Mhm.
time after I do, I'm like, I feel so strong. I feel so connected to myself. I feel so much more regulated. And it's like kind of forcing yourself to show up when you'd rather do anything else. That's how I feel about breathwork sometimes. It really feels like working out. And then when I do it, I have these experiences. I'm like, that is exactly what I needed. And it is this like quantum shift that happens when you actually show up for yourself. And it's not like sunshine and rainbows and the easiest thing, which is really interesting. I mean, reflecting on just me and Shayna in general, I feel like people think we're so positive and joyful and happy all the time. And we kind of are. But on the other side of that, we're also like deep bitches. Like we go there and
Yes.
we want to bring other people to that level. And I feel like it's part of our medicine to bring that literally rainbows and butterflies down to the deep, dark, like subconscious, showing up, doing the work, calling yourself out. And we feel like you need that polarity. And so we're just grateful that we get to like
Yeah.
create these spaces where people come with us. And it's like, there's so much, there can be so much resistance. And then you do it and you're like, wow, I was meant to be there. I was meant to be in that experience. I was meant to show up for myself in that way.
Yeah. Like I don't want to be the person or only connect with people in a space where it's like I know everything and I've got everything figured out and I'm learning and this is cool and this is information and we're sharing information. Like I want to have the conversations where it's like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing and I made a mess and I feel like shit and there's no way to get out of this and I feel stuck in my stories and I have been a victim and I've been claiming my victim story for my whole life. And now I'm choosing to break it. Like, I want to talk about the empowerment. I want to talk about the like the awareness and calling yourself out. But for me, it's like if you're only in spaces where you don't actually get to call yourself out, like even myself in general, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, we're just, you know, echo chambering some knowledge. We're just talking about, all the things that you can learn from someone else, but there's so much that you can learn just from within yourself that then when you share that vulnerably, it unlocks things in other people and it helps them learn things about themselves. Like that's where the power is. That's where the like, magic is. So that ability to be able to call yourself out, it requires you to drop your ego. It requires you to be vulnerable. It requires you to look at something that is inconvenient or exhausting or takes a little bit of work. Like Dana was saying, feels like a bit of a workout, but that's where that magic is. So like I want to do both, right? Like I want to talk about the empowerment stuff and teach and all the things, but I need the depth. I need the real shit. I need the like where are you not being honest right now? Because clearly there's some blocks here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with me. It's like, I'm not perfect. I'm not like I've made it to some place where now I have no more work to do. Like, there's so many things that I'm learning about myself that I'm like, oh shit, I have been a judgy bitch towards my friend, or I have been, living in my not self with my emotional center towards these people in my life. And it it pops up all the time. And it's just being able to like that first step is, denial, like being able to actually be like, oh, I was wrong. Like I thought I was right and I was actually in my not self. And just having that awareness alone is the thing that allows you to then have growth. Otherwise, you just keep yourself stuck in your story. So, breath work has been amazing because it allows you to do it without necessarily having to like mentally go there
Mentally,
and
no.
understand what it is
Mhm.
that you're healing. Like every breathwork experience is so different.
Yeah.
And so I love hearing yours. Thank you for sharing that with
And
us.
I was curious, are you going to share what happened in the second breath work? Because you and Shayna had a
Yeah.
moment. We felt
Yeah.
your
Yes.
souls, something happened with your souls.
Yes, I was gonna say, so the first breath work felt very light and like relieving for me, but the second breath work felt a bit heavier for me. So I also just appreciate how both of you and your team just are able to hold space for like you were just talking about the challenging shitty stuff that comes up too. But yes, the second breathwork session, what came up for me was a lot of anger and a lot of unprocessed anger. Um, Manifestor, not self theme, right?
Yeah.
And as a kid, I was not shown how to process anger in a healthy way. Instead, I was modeled to just shove it down and keep it inside, and it's not okay to express any kind of negative or difficult emotions. And so, in that second breathwork session, I was having, I don't know if it was a vision, like a memory, or just something that kind of came to me, but I was having this visual of me and and my mom was holding me as I was trying to just let this anger out. I was mad and just trying to like flail around and just as a child, let it out of my body. And my mom was in her way trying to comfort me, but I was feeling the anger just like getting stuck in me and just kind of like bubbling up and boiling up. And then I had a vision of actually Shayna from like a couple days before. One of the women had shared, honestly, just a truly awful comment that she had heard from someone. And I remember seeing Shayna kind of do this Reiki movement of like sweeping that comment like off your body. And what I interpreted was like, that's not my shit. That's not coming in my life. That's not my life, right? You say that all the time and I love it. So I had that visual of Shayna come in. And so I started doing that of like, this no longer has to be my life. I can process anger and I can like let it out. And so I remember I was trying to like beat my hands, and I think someone brought me pillows because I was probably being aggressive. Um, but I don't know, Shayna, is that where kind of you came over?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I brought you
Yeah.
pillows for your hands because
Oh, it
I
was
was
you.
like,
Thank you.
you need to punch something
Yeah.
soft.
Yes, I did. So thank you. Yeah, but yeah, it was just kind of like a full circle moment of like, this was kind of a past experience I had, but it's a choice. I don't need to hang on to that. It doesn't have to be my life. And so that's where I was just like, yep, we're gonna kind of sweep this off. No longer has to be my life or my truth or how I want to process anger going forward. But
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah.
second session was much more intense for me, definitely.
Yeah, and I was like cleansing you, raking you, having a whole moment of just like, okay, I saw this energy like literally um like peeling off of you. And so I was just there with you holding
Mhm.
that I didn't know what you were experiencing internally, but I was like, okay, let's cleanse this. Let's get it off.
Get it out.
Yes, and that was really amazing because for me, working with energy, it's all been very intuitive and like, I have such an open chart that like I feel the subtle frequencies so differently than I think I could like learn in a school or something, or like go to some Reiki master thing and they tell me what it is that I'm feeling or whatever. But for me, it's very visual, it's very felt and intuitive. And in Bali was where I really just dove into working with clearing energy with my hands and with my words and with my voice. And so, yeah, I love that
Mhm.
we were so connected in that space. Cause yeah, and it's just always such a lesson of like, you think you need to learn things. Like, I think we all can resonate with like, I should go to school for this, or I should go take a class on this because I don't know. And there's so much wisdom inside of you. Like, literally, you have all the gifts that you need to be able to heal yourself and heal other people. Just if you tune in and trust yourself and try it and go for it. So that was another big lesson for me in Bali was like, no, like even in my daily meditation routines, like just really letting myself connect with the energy and the frequencies around me and like literally move it with my hands and like mold it around me without needing to know, like I don't know what the name is for that. Like is it qigong, is it reiki, is it like I don't know. It's literally there's no word for it. It's just this felt intuitive thing. Anyways, my point with this with everyone is just like trusting yourself. Like there's so much depth in um healing that you can do for yourself and for others. And so that healed me. Like being able to work with you and see this like energy coming off of you was like for me like really amazing too. So thank you for sharing that experience with us.
Yeah. Yeah. So Bali for me was really healing. I think I went in with the intent of embodiment because I had been doing a lot of learning, but I hadn't actually been embodying the information. So I had intended to practice more embodiment, but it really just became this healing experience for me that was pleasantly unexpected.
Hmm.
Mm. And then we just recently, within the last, I don't even know, couple weeks, month,
Yeah.
how long has it
Uh-huh.
been? What is
Something
time?
like that.
We were just together in Mexico, which I feel like Mexico was really kind of a blend, at least for me, of learning and the individual kind of hard stuff
Yeah.
um, from both um, Costa Rica and Bali. So Mexico to me felt like a very blended experience of all the
Mhm.
content that you shared. And for me, I didn't think I had an intention going in. It was just like you announced it, and I was like, "Yep, I think I wanna go." And I think there was just a spidey sense I had too of like, I wonder if people from Costa Rica are gonna wanna go because it's a closer location to a lot of the people in the US, and I would love to just reconnect in person with some of the both Bali and Costa Rica family that I had made. So I made a comment on your social media page of like, "Okay, am I gonna be the three-peat? Am I gonna be the groupie that goes to all 3?" And I had some, like, personal judgment about that, like, am I the weirdo that just keeps showing up? But I was like, "No, like, I just really enjoy the spaces that you create and just the transformation and the healing and the learning." So it was almost like a no-brainer for me. But as I had was thinking about signing up for Mexico, I mentioned that I kind of freaked out about the roommate situation in Costa Rica. So I ended up having a solo room in Costa Rica. For Bali, I had wanted a roommate, but I believe that she wasn't able to attend. So I ended up having a solo room again. So going into Mexico, I was like, I'm having a roommate experience. So I was looking at the rooming options, and then Kristen, who had been in Costa Rica, saw my comment and reached out to me and asked like, "Hey, what rooms are you looking into? Would you be interested in rooming with me?" And Kristen is a reflector, and so I remember having this moment of like, oh my gosh, this reflector like wants to share energy with me, just knowing that reflector types are just so open
Mhm.
and just take a lot in. And so I was like almost more worried about her experience than my own experience. And so I had to take a step back and was like, wait, Allison, do you want to room with Kristen? Like you want a roommate. So I almost felt like the universe was starting to like conspire in my favor of like, this is an experience you need to have. You want a roommate? There's someone you know, she's asking you. And so I think rooming with Kristen was a huge part of just my learning and kind of the transformation that I had in Mexico as well. Um, for myself, of like, it's okay to pick what I want and not be so concerned about everyone else because she's a grown woman. She knows her needs. And again, we're in this environment where I'm trusting that everyone is following their own intuition, their own strategy and authority. Um, but yeah, connection was kind of what came up for me in Mexico, and Kristen was a big part of that. So
I love it so much. So yeah, that middle one of Bali where you're like, I didn't get a roommate last time and now I really want one. And then we paired you with a roommate that we thought was really going to get along with you with your charts. And then yeah, she ended up last minute, like the day before an accident actually happened and she wasn't able to come. And then we were like, oh no, Allison's journey. Like we knew, but it's also like, well, we got to trust that this is then what is meant to be. And so then this third retreat, getting to see you and Kristen, I just love you. Both of us love you both so much. I mean, we really feel like family. Like you can't go through these experiences and not
Yeah.
feel like connected for the rest of life together. And that's how we feel. So knowing you both and then you guys being roommates, I was into that. And I loved hearing when you guys would go back to your room and reflect on things and you come back out and share. And it was just like felt like it felt like the perfect not ending, but like, part of the story. It was felt like the perfect part of the story that felt really climactic and fun for us. And it's cool because when we're doing these retreats, we have our own personal journeys, the things that we learn. We also then have like the total overall group experience, but we also really feel each individual that's there. And your journey is our journey. And so it was cool for us too to see you have that roommate connection. And for me too, connection was a huge theme in Mexico because approximately half of the people kind of knew each other already. So we were coming in, not meeting strangers. Some people were meeting everyone for the first time. And for them, I feel like that was a bit of a different experience. But even still for those people, that connection, that coming together, that sisterhood feeling, which there still was some of that Bali deconditioning, looking at our core wounds, challenging aspect to it. But that sisterhood connection for me was the biggest theme, the biggest takeaway. And, even like finding the strength in doing something that is challenging because Mexico was rugged and there were 150 stairs that we traversed on a daily basis, which if you were there, you know, if you know, you know, and if you're not there, you're like, is that a lot of stairs? Like, yes, it is. But, but yeah, that connection I felt like was a really beautiful theme that I felt from Mexico as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of Mexico, the theme was um like lessons, like being triggered and then learning a lesson. Not to say that like Mexico was really triggering, but like even in our journeys, you know, like unexpected things popping up and then needing to pivot and needing to shift. And we're so good at that. Um, and it's fun to do that, but it is this like, oh, okay, this outside of your comfort zone kind of feeling. And, you know, hearing a lot of different people share their experiences after Mexico, you know, it like I was saying before, if they had been to Bali, it was like easy peasy. The stairs were still hard, but like the content that we did was not that crazy. And then, you know, Costa Rica was like, holy shit, that just like threw me into a tornado. And then, you know, for people who were just coming to Mexico, this was their first retreat. It was amazing and it was expansive. And so I feel like the word for me with Mexico really is initiation. Like it initiated a new chapter in everyone's lives. And we really wanted to have this be an initiation of like, you're going to learn some new things that nobody's really talking about in this human design space right now. And it's going to initiate you because, like we said in the beginning, once you know, you can't unknow. And yeah, it's just really it's amazing. It felt like we had a huge group in Mexico, but it's funny because in Costa Rica we had 30, I think it was 36 people, and in Mexico we had 40. So it was like four more people.
39 technically. With
Yeah,
baby girl, she was 40, which we count.
exactly.
Mhm.
Shayna was pregnant with her daughter, for everyone listening who doesn't know, and we count baby girl in utero as guest number
The
40.
40. Yes,
But really it was
exactly.
just
It was
3 more
39.
than
Yeah.
in Costa Rica.
And everyone was like, it was such a big group. But I think it's because we were going deeper places than we were in Costa Rica. So it's just really interesting, you know, the things, the vibe that and the lessons that you get after each one. And you know, I do want to clarify when I was talking about, you know, being open and being able to work with energies within you to heal other people. You don't have to have an undefined chart to do that. Like your definition in your chart is also an amazing place that you are always healing other people, that you are always using to really heal yourself and heal others. It's just knowing the difference between like, for me, it's inconsistent. It feels like this okay, I have all these resources available to me all the time. Do I want to let it in right now and really work with it and feel it and then heal myself and heal others? Or does it feel like too much for me right now? And actually, I need to just like clear out and let these energies pass by me. Whereas if you're defined, you know, it's this, do I want to use these things that I am feeling consistently and my gifts to really give, like literally give it as a gift. Every time Dana does a sound bath or she does like literally anything, it's like feels like a gift coming into a little package that she hands you with a bow on it. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the nicest gift I've ever received, right? It could be an email from Dana and that's the vibe that comes off. But just knowing my point with all of this, you know, through these 3 different experiences, I think the through line theme, that the lesson that I've learned outside of human design content, right, is all of our ability to be able to meet ourselves and use what's available in that moment, like to truly choose to do it or to see it and then be like, okay, that's too much, or that's, you know, I'm not quite ready to do that, and let it kind of pass by, which is totally valid as well. But I think that that has been the through line theme for me, is being able to meet yourself at different octaves and then being able to use the resources that are available in the different ways that we're all meant to, because we're all unique, we're all different, but ultimately we're all here to heal. We're all here to heal others. We're all here to contribute to the collective consciousness, the oneness that we're all a part of. So we're doing it whether we want to or not. but that dive in bitchness, which you clearly have, diving into these 3 spaces with us, and then being able to learn not only from others, but learning from yourself in that container. It is like you leave that space feeling changed and feeling changed in a way that you couldn't mentally have planned or prepared. And yeah, so I feel initiated by Mexico. I also feel really, I'm at a really vulnerable place in my life, being pregnant and about to have a baby. Like I feel more vulnerable now than I ever have. Um, and also stronger now than I ever have. And at the same time weaker now than I ever have. Like all of that is true at the same time. So yeah, leaving Mexico, it's taken a while for me to really synthesize, like, how do I feel about Mexico? Because I wasn't feeling fully myself, because I'm half of my body, more than half, I want to say, is dedicated towards creating like a brain and like body. So I felt physically for myself very different than I felt at Costa Rica or Bali, and learning how to how that's growing me through the outside of my comfort zone space, just like everyone else I feel like experienced to some degree in Mexico. But okay, that was a really long decent rant. What I want to know is your experience in Mexico. You know, I know you shared a bit about it, but do you feel like it was that like outside of your comfort zone thing? Do you feel like you observed that between the people in the Costa Rica and Bali? Like I'm curious your observations
Yeah.
between the 3, if you will.
Yeah. It's interesting that you brought up that Mexico was 39, 40 people, 40 women there, right? And that it really wasn't a ton more than Costa Rica, but I felt like there were a lot of people there. And I realized early on that I don't know if I'm going to have time to meet every single person and be able to talk on the level of like, I don't know if I'm going to get to the depth that I want to with everyone. Just there's a lot of people. And so I made the decision of I'm just going to follow who my body is called to talk to, and those conversations that kind of flow and feel good. And so that felt different for me of like it's okay to just honor who I want to talk to when I want to talk to them, and trust that everyone else will do the same. Speaking of like the dive in bitch like perception, I one of the women early on mentioned that she was really shy. I think this was Harmony. And I saw her at the pool playing her ukulele by herself one day. And I was like, I just felt like I need to go talk to her. And so I went over and I was worried. I was like, I don't want to interrupt her. Like maybe she needs this alone time. It was like very peaceful by the pool. But I went over and I just asked, I was like, is it okay if I like sit here? I'd love to like get to know you. I also identify as being shy sometimes. She was like, yeah. And so we just had this really amazing conversation. And I remember she asked me like halfway through, we were talking astrology because she's very into astrology. I am not, so I was learning from her. She learned I was a Capricorn moon, and so she just flat out asked me like, well, what's your relationship with your mother like? And I was like, people in the real world do not ask that. I just met you. But I was like, I am here for it. Like, yes, let's talk about it. And so just that level of like vulnerability and just being open and following the people and conversations that felt good to me in the moment was a new level of permission that I gave myself in Mexico that I hadn't in other places. And so that felt tough of just like honoring, like, you know what, I'm just going to honor my body's capacity of like how much energy I have, where I want to place it. And yeah, that felt challenging in the moment.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so true that with having that many people, you really have everyone has their own experience, right? Because maybe this person went to all the yoga classes in the morning and they met all of these people, and this other person never went to a yoga class once and they met all of those people. And so like everyone was really on their own journey. And I feel like there's kind of this level of trust that that's okay. and that, you
Mhm.
know, collectively, we're all going to have the journey
Mhm.
we're meant to have if we just honor ourselves in that moment. And
Mhm.
that's something that's been really cool for us in facilitating a retreat with so many people, is like everyone is so different, and we know that more than anyone else. And so it's like some people, they're like, we have 2 days where we're not doing class, like that, what are we going to do with all that time? And other people are like, only 2 days, like I need to sleep for those whole 2 days. And it's like everyone is so different. And so bringing this energy of like, that's cool. That's exactly how it's meant to be. If you don't want to come to class, please don't come to class. If you only want to talk to, you know, this one friend, like listen to yourself, honor yourself, and know that that's okay. And that energy is healing for me. Like if we're talking about inner child stuff, you know, it's really healing for me to let everyone just be who they are and to see what that feels like. Cause I feel like in my childhood, I came from a really big family, and I was constantly sacrificing what I needed for the betterment of the group. And healing that in my life is like being in these big groups where everyone has the freedom to do whatever they need to do, whether that's breaking down and crying today and being vulnerable, like that's cool. There's space for you. Whether that is, you know, you're the happy, fun person that just wants to dance when everyone else is meditating, like great, there's space for you. And that's healing for me to create containers like that and to get to be in that container myself. It's beautiful. And you know, for me, with all of our retreats, my cross of incarnation is in the quarter of duality. And what that means is that my purpose is really fulfilled through bonding. And I have to say that out of all of the amazing human design things we teach, out of all of the places that we get to travel that are incredible, like there's a lot of facets of our retreats, but the thing for me is the connections that I make and getting to like genuinely love people and to feel so connected, like in this way that I don't with my regular friends. I put in quotes, like my friends in my real life or even my family. It's like I love those people and I have a really strong relationship with them, but I have a whole different relationship on a different level with the individuals who have come to our retreats, period. It's like you've been through this experience that is like hard to capture. It's hard to even talk about it and let people know what it was like unless you were there. And so for me, being able to go on these journeys, like with a capital letter journey,
J.
with the, you know, the capital J journey, right? And the people that you go on that journey with, it's like, I feel you all, everyone, I feel you every day. And having gone through those journeys together, it's like now I have these people that are like my soul family, and I can feel them in my heart, and our connection emboldens me to keep going, to continue to be brave when we're doing something new that other people in my life are like, what are you guys doing? Like, you're planning a retreat with how much time and where are you going to, like, we get so much shit. I can't even tell you for everything that we create. Like, our family and friends are like, you guys are nuts. And everyone in our soul retreat family, I can like feel your spirits with me, encouraging one another, cheering each other on. And I think that that has been the greatest medicine for me. It's like, yes, we've learned all of this amazing technical human design information and it is life changing, but the encouragement of this expansive connection that can only be built through such a intense container. You know what I mean? Like only
Yeah.
through going through that level of intensity can you then have this level of connection where it's like, I feel like everyone that's gone through retreats are like my angels that I like carry with me. And then getting to see some of them like once a year whenever we do a retreat is amazing. But I also feel like I carry everyone with me all the time. And I really feel grateful for that. It's been like the
Yeah.
greatest gift. And I just feel so blessed that it's a part of DayLuna and a part of our job and a part of because it's a part of my soul. Like, to be honest, you know what I mean? Like, we don't do it for we don't think about it as like, this is our career. It's like, this is our soul's path and our soul's
Yeah.
calling. And it's just a blessing that it is a part of our career.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you just think about, if you're listening and you're like, I've never been on a retreat before, even if you just think about traveling with someone, like if you go on an international trip or even just like a long trip with someone, a best friend or whoever, you are so much closer by the end of it just through the logistical side of like packing and unpacking and being in a new space and like
and like
eating your meals
sweating
and
as you're waiting in a line and the sun is beating down on you and you stink and you need to take a shower. And then you look at your friend and you're like, we are getting closer right now from
yeah.
just like me sweating like this in front of you. Normal people don't know that side of me.
Yeah, and it's just that experience alone, like you are so much closer to anyone that you travel with in general, but then to travel with someone and go deep with them and get vulnerable and have like these new experiences that you wouldn't have anywhere else, it bonds you for life. It's like, okay,
It does.
and even I was saying to Brian, with our team and you and Julia, like I have traveled with these 6 women more to 3 international countries. Like no other friend in my life have I done that. No other family member in my life have I done that. Like I've literally traveled the world with you women, and that's crazy. He's like, geez, we've done more than 3 international trips together, but like that's still like most people with their partner, their significant other, they don't do that. So it is really such a bonding experience that alone, it's like you're connected because you had this whole experience frequency that is there. It's in the timeline of all of your paths coming together to then experience this moment in time throughout the world, like having this initiation, if you will, or this experience together. So I love it. I love doing retreats. It's so funny. Everyone's always like, wow, sold out so fast. Like, you must be making so much money on these retreats. And it's like, retreats are not a good
It's
business
money
model.
maker.
Like,
the least fruitful thing that we
yeah,
do financially, but the most fruitful on a soul level. And that's
exactly.
true.
Which
That
is
is
why we
real.
have to keep doing them. It's like people are always, I think they have this misconception that like we make so much money at these retreats and we're like balling with it. And like that is definitely a misconception. Like being somebody who hosts retreats and the expenses that go into it, but also we really like to make everything really nice, and we like to pay extra for the gold foil. We like to pay extra for everyone to have a massage, and we like to pay extra for like literally everything you can think of. We're like, we want to do that. And so maybe it's our own fault, but definitely retreats for us are this experience to connect and to learn and to grow, and the what we get out of it is worth so much more than money is. It's just obviously, like Dana was saying, that strategic side of being like, okay, but how am I going to pay my bills, and how is this actually going to like, I'm now going to not be working on my business for a month. I'm going to be traveling and holding space and not answering any emails and pausing orders on our website and like all the things. Um, the logistical side, that's like your mind is like, this doesn't make sense. And so many people outside of you are like, you need to charge more for this. You need to charge less for this. You need to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that mental side, human design cuts all of that out and helps you get to the heart of things. And then that's where the magic comes from. I can't tell you how many people who've come on our retreats who are like, I just went on a retreat a few months ago and it was not this. Like it was a shit show and it was really not a great experience. And we're like, really? That's insane, because we've just never had that experience. And I know it's because we've been using our human design and our strategy and authority with every single decision and weeding out the noise of like Dana said, there's always going to be a reason not to. And there's always going to be a reason not to have a retreat for us. Like I was 6.5 months pregnant for this retreat. And that was a huge reason to be like, do you want to go somewhere where there's no doctor and there's no elevator? I guess so. And and here I am, and I'm totally fine, and I'm, transformed from that experience. But yeah, it's not always the smart thing. It's the thing that your body and your soul just knows you have to do. And that's where you get the most magic. So if you have made it to this far in this, listening through all of our experiences, if you can take away one thing, it would be trust yourself, because it always pays off, even when it's scary, even when it doesn't make sense. like really having the courage to take action towards trusting yourself, like buying the plane ticket or purchasing, hitting publish on that website, like actually taking the action towards the internal voice that you feel, you're going to get so much more out of it than you could ever imagine. So I'm just so grateful that I've gotten to travel the world with you, Allison,
Mm,
and learn from you. And
Same. I
your
love
yes.
manifestor
you.
energy just feels so good.
Yes. You took the words like right out of my mouth of like just trusting yourself, because that's really what I have taken away from all three experiences. I've had, like we just talked about, very different experiences, but all of them, it was like I just trusted I needed to have that experience. So,
Yes.
mm, I'm so glad we had this conversation. Thank
Me
you. Is
too.
there anything else that you want to leave? Any stones we haven't unturned
Mhm.
yet? Uh,
Wow. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's like really brought me down memory lane, and it's cool to have it with you that has experienced all
mhm.
three. Because, only Shayna and I have had these conversations. But I did want to say, like, something that's just been on my heart easily, that's another heart lately, that's another medicine from Mexico, is actually about ease and easy. That's been something I've been thinking a lot about. I recently just went to my music festival that we have here in my town, and I was watching all of these incredible musicians share their talent. And I was thinking about how hard it is to earn a living as a musician, how hard it is to earn a living as a human design reader, as a anything, like you fill in the blank. And it's not easy to say yes to your dreams. It's not. It's easier to put your head down and to do whatever society tells you to, and to hate your job because it's more secure, because it feels more safe financially. Like, that is easier, but it creates so much friction to say no to your dreams, to say no to that little voice that really wants to soar, that wants to fly, that wants to grow. When we quiet that voice, we feel this friction inside of us that is like sandpaper. It rips our life to pieces quietly, invisibly to other people. And I've just been thinking so much about how we got to be bold in this lifetime. You only have this one lifetime as you. And like, if there's a dream in your heart that you want to share, if there are gifts that the world needs, like, it really is not the easier thing to do to follow those, because you are going to face uncertainty. You are going to have to see how it works and be flexible and be adaptable and, let go of control. And that's not easy. But when we do that and we live our truth, we create ease. And ease is harmony. Ease is magic. Ease is swimming downstream. And when you show up, life brings you to the next thing that is like this reward. And I just wanted to leave people with that because, one of the things about Mexico is that it was not easy. It was hard. It was rugged. There was a lot of stairs. And also on the other side of that, I personally felt so strong at the end of it. Like, I fucking did that shit. And we all did that. And it was like every step, metaphorically, every step on these jungle stairs where you're sweating and you're going uphill, like, it became this really powerful medicine for me about like climbing towards your truth, and how that requires some effort sometimes. And then you get to the top and you're like, you forget that you even had to climb the stairs because you're just so happy to be flying on this higher level. And so that's something I've been thinking about a lot. And I just wanted to end with everyone knowing that, like, your dreams are so important, and like the world really needs you. And I know that it's scary to face uncertainty, but you only have this one life as you, and it's going to be gone before you know it, the blink of an eye. And so if you're listening to this and you're feeling stuck in any way, I just want to invite you to realize how powerful and special your dreams are, and to take some risks when you know what's really right for you, and to trust yourself. I think that's something we've been saying this whole time, but that's what my heart has been, it's the melody my heart's been singing for the last few weeks.
Beautiful. Mic drop. I feel like that's how we
Yeah.
end it. Perfect. One last thing before we end. How can people find you if they are new to your work? Do you have a website, Instagram, TikTok? What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find anything that we're offering at our website, daylunalife.com. That's like a day moon, DAYLUNA life.com. And our Instagram at DayLuna, also our podcast, the DayLuna Human Design Podcast. And yeah, we have a million different offerings, whether that's our book or our membership or our training or our boxes. I'm like, what else do we have? Probably a million things I'm forgetting. But a lot of ways where you can learn human design, because human design is complex and we want to make it easy for you and accessible for you to really dive in and start learning about yourself and building that awareness to really set yourself free. So yeah, find us on our website or Instagram, reach out anytime. And thank you so much for having us, Allison. This was so fun.
Amazing. This was so nourishing for me. Thank you for the time. I loved this conversation.
Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to follow along and learn more about human design.